Welcome back to another episode of Sista Brunch. I am your host, Fanshen Cox, and today our guest is the founder and CEO of Black Latina Movement. It is a vibrant grassroots theater and film production company based in New York City. It's so nice to have someone here who's in New York. I think we don't get enough of that, so I am so happy to welcome you to Sista Brunch, Crystal Roman.
Thank you
Or
so
Chris
much. Thank you.
slash
I
Crystal
appreciate it.
Roman slash Crystal
Yeah,
Roman.
it's
I'm like, I felt a little pressure because it's Black Latina
yeah,
movement and I want to get it right.
no. I mean, Latinos, Caribbeans will say Crystal Roman, Americans will say Crystal Rome. It's just for me, it's fine. I'm not particular with that. They're both who I
Okay.
am, right? They're both my identity. Yeah.
Beautiful,
I'm really
beautiful.
appreciative of being here. Thank you.
We are so glad. I love that this connection. I mean, we happen to be recording season 6 right now, and then I think we connected on IG maybe,
Yeah.
and I was like, yes, we love a kind of an identity group that we have not had on enough, and I'm very excited about where things can go with like Afro Latinidad. I feel like
Yeah.
that is, as I preach into the choir, I'm sure, a story that we don't get to hear enough
Yeah.
about, right? So I was so excited to have you on. So the way we always start this show is to ask the guests to tell us about how you ended up where you are right now as a CEO and a founder, but what was the journey? You can go back to like your ancestors, or you can
Mhm.
go back to the day you were born, you can go back to high school, college, wherever you want to start. What was your journey?
Identity is always an issue or funny issue, or it can be, right? Growing up in New York City, I always forget how privileged we are in New York. I talk about this all the
Mm,
time because we have such a melting pot that I don't realize that other places in the world and even our country don't have some of
yep.
these things that are so easily attainable
Yes.
to us. So, living in New York, I grew up in Harlem. There
Okay.
were all types of black people, right? There was the diaspora
Yes.
there,
Yes.
whether it's West Africans, Caribbeans, North and, Central and South Americans. And so I didn't really think I was super different. But New York, as diverse as it is, it also does have its little, pockets of segregation where you have certain
Yeah.
groups off to themselves. And so my
Yeah.
parents decided to move us to Staten Island, which is, largely Italian borough from the five boroughs. And
Right.
so it was
Right.
a complete culture shock.
Mm.
I always
What
say,
what
like, I didn't know
age
I
was
was
that?
black. That was at like 10.
Okay. Oh
And I
wow.
always
So
say
you
I
had
didn't
Harlem.
know.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
it was the backdrop of my life, right? So like when you see old school pictures of Harlem with like the original way of how it looked before it got gentrified, like
Yes.
that was home.
Yes.
And so to go to Staten Island, which was a culture shock for me because I had not been around that many people that were white and just had different backgrounds too, because they have Asians and so for me, I always say I didn't know I was black until I left Harlem, because then there
Right.
was this understanding of having to explain who you were and
Mm,
why you look this way, and like teachers would
mm,
question if my mom was my mom or she was the nanny, and things
mm.
that I didn't have to really think about until I got there. And so like
Okay.
in our show that is like our signature show that we've had for 16 years since the onset of the company, what really started the company, there's a piece where the woman who's the actress but is a part of my story talks about feeling this pressure of being ostracized because the world just doesn't understand who you are and you know who you are. And so it was, and in the show they talk about losing that sense of innocence, right? I was super innocent. I didn't know what it was that I was light skinned and my mom's like Oprah's complexion. I didn't know that colorism or any of that really existed
Mm,
at 10, right?
mm.
You're a kid, but my
Right.
innocence was completely stripped away at that point. And I was like, oh, the world sees my mother very different than what they see
Mm,
me. And so
mm.
this journey started, right? I go to high school and you go to college, and you have these moments where like you have these big moments where your brain is kind of like whoosh, right, like it's
Yes.
like you're taught so many things. And now we're having these conversations, but you think about when I was in high school, this is like almost 20 years ago. It's like
Mm.
Columbus Day was Columbus Day, right?
Right,
Woo,
right.
some of
Yes,
these
yes. And I grew up in
conversations.
a progressive area, and still I think like we actually had that day off, and it was, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
yes,
And so
yes.
some of these concepts now are really new, and I'm happy that we're getting to this place. But you have to
Mm-hmm.
think about some of us, some of the older millennials, we didn't really have this
Yeah,
mobility that we have now,
right.
which is beautiful. I love what the younger millennials are doing and having this mobility to like just move things faster. We really
Yes.
struggled. And so for me, going to, college, and then going into leaving college, and then going into the world of acting, and then realizing like this is a real problem that is like it had this little foreshadowing moment throughout my life of just this weird tension of people wanting you to pick something like, well, why can't you just be
Mm,
this
this
to make
one
it easier for
thing.
me to understand who you
Uh-huh.
are?
Right.
And so it's like, when you're acting and you read a casting call, it's like, well, this is what the casting is saying. And in your mind, well, in my mind, right? When I started acting, I was fresh out of high school. So I was in college, and it was like a hobby of mine. And I'm still really young, right? So I'm like 18 years old, and I'm like, oh, it says a black woman, I could do that, or it says Latina. And not really getting that the way that I perceived myself was not the way that the world perceived me. And having
Speak
to
on
digest
it.
that pill
Speak on it.
and
This,
saying
yeah.
like,
Ooh.
oh, you
Ooh.
don't see me
That.
the way I see me,
Mm.
or the way that my family sees me, or the way that my friends see me. And so having almost like another identity crisis of saying, what do I do? Do I like just fold into this mold and say, okay, you see me this way, so I'll be this way? Or do I kind of just stand my ground and say,
Mm.
no, this is ridiculous, and I can't just, because you do feel like a piece of you is dying because you have to make this choice for something. And I can only imagine, like, there's a lot of actors, that I know have had to make the choice to say, I look more Latin, I'm going to go for the Latin roles and just not really
Mm.
play any black roles. Or I look more black, and so I'm going to just let the Latin roles go. I can only imagine how that feels. For
Mm.
me, it was just one of those, like, knee jerk reactions where I was like, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing, and kind of just started writing and producing and directing. And at that time we didn't have some of the shows we see now, whether it's like Gordita Chronicles or Insecure or
Yes.
Scandal, like a
Yes.
lot of these
Yes.
really important shows. We didn't have that then,
Right.
so it was really limited. And so like when I would do castings, it was like nobody would show up because people just really
Mm.
weren't comfortable with saying like, oh, they're looking for a black woman that doesn't necessarily have a description, because it wasn't about the description. It was more so like, can you act and play this role? And obviously,
Mm.
there's certain roles that you need to have a description just for if
Right.
it's a historical piece or,
Right.
age or whatever.
Right.
But
Right.
for the most part, like, I'd never put like, your hair has to be relaxed or this way or that
Mm.
way, or
Mm.
long or
Mm.
short or straight. You
Yeah.
need to be small or big, or because to me, it's art, and art is interpreted the way that the viewer wants it to be interpreted, not
Mm.
like pushing it down somebody's throat like, well, this is what, because it's also a form of brainwashing when you tell a person and they're
Yeah.
visually watching something and say, this is what this black woman looks like, or this is what this like, then we just assume that's what they look like and who they are. And so
Right.
I wanted to
Right.
kind of get out of that brainwashing of like, this is what we say it is, or more so of like, no, we're gonna tell you what that looks like. And
I
so
love it. Okay,
yeah,
I
yeah.
I just while we're still on the journey piece, where is your mother from? Like, what is your
So my
Latinidad?
mom
Like,
is like
what's
a
your?
big my mom is like a big mix. So my mom is her
Yes.
dad is well, both her parents are American, born here.
Okay. Okay.
They're both first generation American. My mom's parents, so my grandparents. My grandfather is Jamaican and also Moroccan
Hey,
descent.
my dad's
Uh,
Jamaican. Yay! All
yeah,
right, I had to.
and also
Yes. Okay.
and Moroccan descent, and my
Okay.
grandmother is an Afro Puerto Rican, so dark skin. Both her
Okay.
parents are Afro Puerto Ricans, dark skin, and so
Mm,
people fall in love, and we have
yes.
similarities in a lot of the things. And I think that's another thing too. Sometimes it's like, how could that be? And it's like, okay, do you not know the food? Do you not know the
Mm,
music? Do you not see like?
mm,
But we know it in our community, right? So it's not a thing where it's
yes.
so foreign and vast and wide. It's like, no, there's a lot of similarities in a lot of our countries because we all come from one place. And so
Mm,
I think
mm.
I think that was also hard for people to really get, like, how did that mixture come about? Yeah.
Hi, this is Fanshen Cox, and you are listening to the Sister Brunch podcast. Did you know that you can support us? If you love what you're hearing and you want to hear more, you can support us by following us and interacting with us on Instagram at Sister Brunch Podcast. You can leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. You can also watch the full episodes, and you really should, because these guests, oh my goodness, they're gorgeous and beautiful and handsome and all the things. So you can do that at youtube.com/Trujulo Media. That's TRUJULO Media. You can also watch highlights on TikTok at Trujulo Media. Okay, okay. All right, great. I because I wanted to have that context too, because you named some shows and it's so exciting. We've got Insecure. We've got like one day at a time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, neither one on air anymore. But these opportunities to broaden what we think about particular groups of people. Same with being Jamaican. I'm like, I can't wait till more Jamaicans are having mainstream projects, right? Where
Right.
on one hand, it's like, this is what it means to be Jamaican. And at the same time, we're also just human beings, right? We
Right.
like, we want to present that duality or
Right.
triality,
Right.
whatever,
And
however you
you're
say it.
American, right? So you could, a lot of the code switching too is not hard for us. So you could be, speaking
Right.
patois and then speak
Yes.
English and then do this and then, and for some people it's like
Yes.
mind
Yes.
blowing, and it's like, no,
Yes.
it's the fluidity of our identities that is so easy for us, but for others it's just so hard that they're like, no, you have to just do this because this is too much. And it's like, I can't water down my being and who I am.
Mm,
This is who we are. We are beautiful beings created by an amazing
yes.
God. Why would we have to then, if he wanted us all to look the same, he would have just made us all one color. Clearly there
Right.
was beauty to variety, and that you see that throughout everything, right? Plants,
Yeah.
flowers, food.
Yes.
So for me it was like, no, I want to be able to live in my worlds.
And what was the connector with storytelling? Like, how did you said that you were kind of doing acting as a hobby. When did you
Mhm.
start to realize it, because you've connected what I think a lot of actors sometimes don't do is they think, oh, we've got to tell these outside stories, right? I've got to become these other things. And yes, that's part of acting, is being able to become someone and something different. But also you were like, you can perform and you can tell impactful stories that are about your identity. So was there a moment, was there some kind of catalyst that pushed you to do
Um,
that?
I got tired of playing like these, like just real stereotypical roles. And while
Mm,
these characters are real characters in our communities, they're not the only ones, and everything was feeling very linear. So I just kind of
okay.
wrote Black Latina the Play was literally like a one woman show. And it was
Okay.
just like five monologues that one person could play. And then it evolved into
Mm,
an ensemble piece of five women. And then there was music and dance. And so we kept adding on to it throughout the years. And then after that, I kind of just wanted to make, create roles and stories that were anyone could appreciate. It didn't have to be identity pieces like Black Latina the Play, but breaking these rules of like what women of color could play. So like even in our series Cecilia the Celibate,
mm,
it's a romantic comedy. It's funny. She's
yes.
trying to find love in New York, but she's celibate. And why can't black and brown women, understand and appreciate their bodies in a different way? Like, yes, we see the promiscuous women, which that's fine too. If you want to hook up and you want to jump in someone's DMs, that's fine too. But I feel like we were always given like hypersexual roles and like these
Right.
real intellectual, high value roles were only given to certain
Mm,
women. And it's like, hold on a second. We have a lot of sisters who are taking roles of, taking vows of celibacy or just saying, I'm taking a break. I still want to connect
wow.
with someone and I still want to, date, but I'm gonna, just reserve my body for me, and I could still have a fruitful relationship. And even for our black and brown men, right? Like there are a lot of intellectual black and brown men who will say, it's cool. We don't have to sleep with each other at the end of the day. Like, this was great, and we could have a fruitful relationship too. And
Mm,
so
mm.
breaking those, like, those roles that we were put into of
Yes.
like, this is the way it looks and this. So, I get a
Essentialist,
lot of,
right? Like, yeah, I love it. I love it.
yeah. So I just wanted to continue to push that narrative, and
Mm.
create different shows and plays that were allowing us to really just spread our wings and feel comfortable and say, I don't have to only see a certain group of people playing these roles. I could actually see myself, and they could be
Mm.
written for a woman of color and not just others.
I love it. So you've got Black Latina movement, and you've got Cecilia the Celibate, and those are two theater pieces. And
No, so
how are
Cecilia
you?
is a web series.
Oh, that's a
Yes.
web series. Okay,
Yes, it's a
okay.
web
And
series. And then
written
Black Latina
originally
the
as
play.
a, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
it was
Okay.
originally a short film, and then we broke it up into
Nice.
episodes.
Okay.
And it won awards, and it was in the festival circuit. It did really well. But
Nice.
it's a series, and Black Latina the play is a play.
Okay. And so we have a segment on financials. Um, Mainly because we feel like we don't talk about this enough,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
get imposter syndrome around it. And we feel a lack of confidence around asking for what we should ask for. And especially as a CEO, as a founder, so many things. One is, can you talk about the budget for Black Latina movement? So a budget for a live theater piece. And even if it changed, like what kinds of things change the budget? And then for your web series, the budget for that, and then what it costs to become a founder of a theater and film production company.
So that's great. So we just went off Broadway in May. We were off Broadway with our
Yes,
show called Of
yes,
Mothers and
yes.
Men, which are 9 monologues about women going through their relationships with their mothers or themselves as mothers, and men in their lives, be it good or bad. So some of the women, one woman was had a horrible relationship with her mom, but another woman had a great relationship. Another woman is going through she has an amazing man, loves the man that she's with, and another woman is left at the altar. So we see this antagonist protagonist kind of characters, and so paying the actors what they're worth, having an all black and brown cast, having an all black and brown crew. Oh well, we had one man, one white man, but
Occasionally
we
we
let
let
him
them
in.
in. We let them in.
We let him in.
Okay.
And
Yes.
so, I pride myself in maintaining us in front and behind the camera or stage.
Yes. Yes.
And so that production was about 25 to 30 thousand dollars.
Okay.
Making sure we had everything we need, from publicity to marketing to promotion to everything, playbills, anything
And
you
how
could
long
think
was
of.
the run?
The run was a week. It was 6 shows.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Love it. Love it. And
yeah.
how do you raise that money? How did you, yeah.
So for me, one of the things I do is that we also do workshops, and we tour with Black Latina the Play, and then I also conduct workshops at universities throughout the country.
Nice.
So for me, I will just reinvest some of the funding that I've had
Beautiful.
from
Yes.
my other projects and just feed it back. And then obviously my own personal money. If we do get sponsors, that's always great, obviously, because it cushions the brunt of the weight of it. And then ticket sales. You always have to make sure that financially you're calculating the sales of the tickets in a way where the price that you're offering is, enough to cover. So you have to kind of make a plan for yourself and say, we have to sell X amount of tickets in order to make either break even and get out of the red and be in the black. And so that's really important when you're building that strategy, and you should always give yourself a nice amount of time to pivot to, right? If ticket sales are not going well, you also have to have a cushion, miscellaneous funds where you could say, all right, I'm going to put more money into marketing and promotion, be it, IG ads, Facebook ads, or whatever that may look like. So it's always
Mm.
important to, I would always say, budget up. So if you originally start, you write down your budgets and all your line items, and you're at, say, 25,000, I would always say kick in another 5,000 and say,
Mm.
just in case
That
for incidentals.
contingency, right? Have that
Yeah,
contingency.
yeah,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. And then how about shifting to Cecilia the Celibate? So what does it look like? Is it a different kind of budget for a web series?
It cost us about 15,000, which was pretty reasonable. I mean, we
How
also
many
did a lot of
episodes?
begging.
Uh-huh.
Huh?
Exactly. This
It-
how many
yeah.
episode for how many episodes?
That was, well, it was 40 minutes, so we were able to cut it down to 3 episodes.
Nice.
But
Okay.
because she went on a lot of dates, we were in a lot of restaurants in New York, so a lot of it was like, pretty please, can you let us just shoot here for a little bit? And
Nice.
keeping
Yes.
crew tight. That's another thing too. Things cost, and I think sometimes people don't understand that. Being an actor myself and then going into being production, I get it now. It's like, if call time is call time, you have to be there because it may cost, right? If you tell somebody, let me use your establishment for an hour and please, and they're like, okay, you can use it, but over this time we're gonna have to charge you. It's like, you need to be there at this time.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
understanding those things too when you do ask for favors. And then what does that look like, right? So if you're getting something for free, you have to make sure that you honor your part of it. Like, we're gonna give you free promo, we're gonna tag you in IG, we're gonna tag you in Facebook. So a
Mm,
lot of that community building is important too, because it can definitely cushion some of the expenses that you're tacking on.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Oh my goodness. So we getting a lesson. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
lovely. And then being a founder, how about what's that cost ballpark or what? Yeah, what have you had to pay for to start your own company?
To start my own company, it's always important to have a mentor or a lawyer, an entertainment lawyer that can
Mm,
help you go through the different waves. What kind of business, if it's going to be an LLC, a C corp, an S corp, getting yourself familiar with those things, having a
right.
CPA, understanding if you have to file quarterly or through or yearly. I think those things are really important because when you start your business, what is your business going to cost you? How much is that going to cost you, depending on the type of business that you're setting up? What is your operating expenses? Everything that you have, you kind of want to shift from your personal to your business. So if you
Mm,
have, all types of subscriptions, whether you have a subscription to Vimeo, you have a subscription to Mirror, like Constant Contact, all of those things, you need to kind of start thinking about that and saying, maybe I'm going to put $100. You first start, I'm going to put $100 into the business account and make sure that those things are covered, and then go from there, creating budgets for yourself and saying, this is what I need. If you're going to do a photo shoot, what does that look like for your business, whether you're going to have business cards. And I think it's really important to strategize and give yourself even like a good 6 months when you've determined that you want to start a business, to say, I need to sit down and give myself a 3 to 6 month plan to say, I need to achieve this, and how do I make this work and make it make sense? Opening up a business account, having that. Once you start having, positive in your business account, even if you are taking from your personal, they'll start to then offer you business credit cards and business loans. I've had
mhm.
a SBA loan before, which
Nice.
was great
Yes.
because that
Yes.
helps. I've also had grants. That's tremendously
Yes.
important. So
Yes. Do
understanding
you
these
do your
things.
own grant writing? Do you get
No,
help with
I
that
don't.
or that's
I do get
wow,
help. Yeah,
you
I
get
do get
help.
help.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So that could be
yeah,
part of your budget is budgeting for a grant
exactly.
writer. That I think a
Exactly.
lot of people don't know that because it's a lot when you're running your own company and you've producing things, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And we women of color and we black women, it's like it can add up all the things that we have to do. So it is perfectly
Tremendously.
okay to hire somebody to do that lift, especially when it comes to fundraising, right? I
A
love
hundred
that.
percent.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
want to like do it all, and it's nice because it's good to understand. But at some point, you have to outsource because you're burning the candle on both ends.
Right.
Because a lot of times, many people in the arts don't understand the business of things,
Hmm.
and so it's like those are two different things. I mean, I was fortunate that when I did go to college, I do have a degree. My bachelor's is in business, and so a lot of times
Oh,
people, but
brilliant.
I do get people don't understand that. So they're so passionate about the art. And it's like, even with my team, like there are days that I'll say, this is an administration day. This day is just
Okay.
to do business things. Like I
Yes.
can't deal
Okay.
with writing, the writer's room or this or that. We need to just go into the administration of things. And I think that's important because folks are love it so much and it's great. But when you're monetizing your passion, you have to understand what that means.
Hey, sisters and siblings, we hope that you are loving our guest, Crystal Roman, as much as we do. I mean, she's a powerhouse, is she not? Look at her creating her own production company. It's so beautiful to see. We hope that you share this episode with friends or family. If you are hearing something for the first time, you're learning something, do us a favor and click that share button. Encourage your friends, family, colleagues, etc., to listen to these stories by these incredible guests and support them as well. You can also always subscribe to our YouTube channel at TrueJulo Media, youtube.com/TrueJulo Media, and review us on Apple or Spotify. And when you go to review us on Apple or Spotify, go ahead and in your review, tell us what you love. What did you love about the episode? Tell us what you have for brunch. What would you tell your younger self? Tell us in your review. So let's dive right back into this conversation with founder and CEO of Black Latina Movement, Crystal Roman. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay. Let's go. This is so good. I think we don't talk business enough on the podcast, and because it's a creative podcast, and a lot of the women or guests that we have are also, they are working. Thank the good goddess, everybody, right? Because it's the entertainment industry is really shifting right now. So that's all great. At the same time, having those business skills matters, right? Like you should know all of it, even if you're not necessarily going to be. You should know enough to be able to hire somebody and know whether they're doing 100%. Their job that you're paying 100%. Them for, right? So you got to understand those financials. I love it. Okay, let's do our segment, Let's Talk Tech. So what is a technical term, concept, piece of equipment, anything at all that you use that if somebody who doesn't do what you do would not know what it is?
It's so funny. So, Cecilia the Celibate, we shot it in 2019. And so it won a bunch of awards and it was great. Yes. And it was in the festival circuit. And so we haven't released it to the public yet. So I was talking to my DP, which is a director of photography. So the director of photography is completely different from a director. Two different things. Your director is directing the actors. The director of photography and DP directs the shot, what the shot looks like. It's a full shot, 3/4, ants view, high up crane, whatever. And so it originally was shot in 1080p, which is the quality of what the camera was at that time. And so we were just having a conversation. He's like, you sure you don't want to shoot it in 4K? So sometimes people don't know the difference of like 1080p to 4K. And it's just the quality of the camera over time, obviously from 2019 to now, so much has changed, and they had 4K then, but most people now, it kind of was a mixture of like you could shoot in 1080 and you could shoot in 4K. Now everyone's only shooting in 4K. So we were having a discussion of like releasing Cecilia to to everyone to watch and saying, you know what, we should just release it. And so he was like, you sure you don't want to shoot it? And I was like, well, do you have $15,000?
You mean to shoot it again? You mean to like shoot it again in 4K? Right. Got you.
Right. Oof, and so we were saying, we were like, you know what, let's just have a viewing session. And so we got a bunch of friends together and we were like, what did you think about the quality? And some people were like, it's great. Like you should release it. 1080 is still the good quality. And so that was like a tech conversation that we recently had last Thursday. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Thank you. Perfect. All right. So it's always so hard for me because every time we meet a new guest, I'm just like, I want you in my life. I could do this episode for an hour. All to say we are planting seeds here. Yeah. And more to come. And to your point about building community, right? Especially as we broaden the stories that we get to tell about ourselves and about people that look like us or communities that, those perspectives that we have. So all to say, you will be back. But we will get to our signature Sista Brunch question, which is that you and young Crystal are sitting down to a Sista Brunch. What are you both eating? What are you both drinking? And what do you tell her?
Yeah, we're probably both drinking a mimosa, but like the flavored mimosa. So like guava or tamarindo or passion fruit mimosa.
Yes, yes.
You know what, brunch, it's so hard because listen, I'm like old school traditional. So, and I always see the menu and there's like 50 million things. And I'm like, but I always go, it's always going to be chicken and waffles or shrimps and grits. I can never like, you
My,
can't stray away from it.
that's well. So first of all, this is so funny because I feel like I used to live in New York, so I'm from the East
Mhm.
Coast. I grew up in Boston and then went to
Nice.
school in New York for a while. And I didn't hear as much about chicken and waffles till I moved to LA. And in LA, there's so many, but I don't know why. Then again, I'm just realizing it. Is it Sylvia's in Harlem?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
the okay? They do serve chicken and waffles.
Yes.
I'm like, I think that's where I had them in New York, but otherwise they didn't.
Yes.
I didn't remember that. Now the grits thing, I love it. I swear, if we do a poll of all of our episodes, that is without
Yeah.
question the most
Yeah.
most answered. So you said shrimp and grits, right? So you don't do
Shrimp and
sugar
grits.
grits.
No.
Okay.
Cheese. No sugar in
Okay.
my
Yes.
grits. Cheese.
Got it. Got it.
It's like
We
either
prom
or. People will either go with the sugar
this
or the cheese. I'm a cheese
we
girl.
Daisha Broadway, another guest this season, is all, and she said, "Don't judge her, but she is sugar grits." And then our
I
producer
know. I know.
Tasha,
It's
there's
such a thing.
nothing
It
wrong
is a
with it,
thing. Yeah. It's
but
nothing wrong.
this is
Yeah.
what we're saying is that this is
Yeah. Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
These are all the things that we are. We're not essentialist. We
Exactly.
all like the same base, which is the grits, but
Yes.
the way that we
Yes.
eat them.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and what do
Love it.
you tell your younger self?
Um, I'll tell her that it will get hard. It's not going to be easy. And there's always going to be pitfalls. There's always going to be naysayers. There's going to be a lot of moments where you just want to give up. Um, but I think there's beauty in the pain and finding, how pain can resonate with you. And yes, pain makes you stronger, but pain also builds character. Pain is sometimes, in order to move to the next level, you got to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. And I've learned that so much in my personal and my professional life. Just really saying, I gotta get out of this box. How do I get to the next level? What does the next level look like? And so I would just tell her, like, don't run away from the uncomfort. That discomfort is important and it's good for you, and you can't listen. You also got to drown out the noise, because there's a lot of distractions and a lot of times where I didn't make certain decisions that I should have made because I was consumed with, oh, what do you think, well, what do you think, what being more confident in my decision making and saying, I know what I need to do. And so it's gonna get rough, girl, but I'll see you in a couple more years and you'll be happy and fine.
Yes. Crystal, I'm so glad we met. I'm so glad this
Yes.
just happened. The timing was perfect for this season. The episode will be out for Black History Month in celebration of Black History, Black Futures, and we're so proud and excited to have a Black Latina representative on the podcast
Thank you.
who is both that and all of the other things that you do. Thank you for the
Thank you.
lessons that you've
Thank
dropped
you.
for us.
Thank you.
And we look forward to building community with you and
Yes.
collaborating and finding
Yes.
some things. I feel like there's going to be a lot there. Thank you so much for coming on
Yes.
Sister Brunch.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Sista Brunch podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. It truly helps us, and it helps us to uplift our guests. We appreciate your follows on Instagram at Sista Brunch Podcast. You can also find, by the way, your people, your community over there by commenting, by learning about our guests. Go ahead and reach out to a guest. If you reach out to a guest because you heard an episode here, let them know that that's how you learned about them. We post industry opportunities. We keep up on our past guests. You can watch, comment, share, and subscribe to our videos on youtube.com/Trujulo Media, TRUJULO Media. We're also on TikTok at Trujulo Media. Sister Brunch is brought to you by Trujillo Productions and was created by Anya Adams, Christabel Nsiabwadi, and me, Fanshen Cox. Our producer for Season 6 is Tasha Rogers. Sister Brunch is recorded on the unceded territory of the Tongva and the Chumash people. At least that's where I'm recording it, here in Los Angeles, California. Thank you so much, truly, to the Sister Brunch community for listening and following, reviewing, subscribing, and we will talk to you next week.